I just realized I completely forgot to play the podcast music, but that's okay. We're not going to stress about it. I am actually putting this podcast out a little bit early, one day early, because of the holidays. And I know it's going to get really busy. I'm going to be busy, and I just would rather you guys have this to listen to, either if you're traveling to your family members, or if you're avoiding your family members, or if you're just needing some time with me. I want to be here with you on the holiday time. So, as I promised, this is going to be my 2026 predictions episode. And we're going to get into it because there's some really heavy themes for this upcoming year. And the truth is that it's going to be sobering, but in a good way. It's going to be sobering. It's going to be, well, let's just say discernment's definitely going to be your best friend in 2026. It's going to get very interesting. So let's kind of jump into what it is that we're going to talk about, because it's a 1 year or a 10 year. So 10, 1 plus 0 is 1. So 10 is a mastery number. So 2026 is definitely going to be all about new beginnings, but it is also about initiation and mastery. So this is going to be a very interesting year. And the mastery is going to be important, guys, because you're going to see, as I get into some of the other things, why you might be really feeling called to master something, especially those of you who are looking to bring your dreams into fruition, looking to lead more from a spiritual place, looking to lead more from a healing perspective, or get into very creative placements. If you're looking to be more responsible, lead, and all of that, this is going to be your year where you do not want to avoid taking some first steps if you haven't already. But with it being a 1 year, this means we're starting all over, right? We're starting all over. We're letting everything go from the last 9-year cycle, and we're saying yes to something new, which means there is this sense of really, truly letting go, more so than most years. Now, one of the beautiful things about this particular upcoming year, 2026, is it is primed very beautifully in the opening of the year for fresh starts, okay, for new beginnings. Last year, we did not have that. Last year, I think we had a Mercury retrograde. I think Jupiter wasn't yet, but there was a lot going on where it was a slow start, right? We don't have that this year. This year, we are off with a bang. So this opening year is a great year for New Year's resolutions, truly ones that you really want to stick to, ones that you really want to bring to the forefront, because we have both Venus and Mars coming into a cazimi with the sun in Capricorn. And what's really great is Capricorn's all about building your legacy. It's about building something that's going to last, stand the test of time. And you have Venus, which represents your values. It represents your money, your relationships. So starting anything, putting really strong initiatives around those themes at the beginning of the year is going to be very amplified and powered up. But also Mars is your initiation. It's your ambition. It's your willpower. It's your drive, right? It's wanting to go out and conquer things. It's your courage. So this year is a great year to really kick something big off. Okay, so going into 2026, you really don't want to enter it quietly. You really want to enter it standing fully present in whatever it is that you want to embody for this coming year. And I say embody as a very powerful word for 2026, which we will get into in a bit. Now, as I was kind of tuning into 2026, the color, I was asking like, what color is 2026 really highlighting? And I got the color yellow. So yellow representing our solar plexus chakra, also yellow representing the sun, optimism, hope, but at the same time, discerning, okay? This isn't blind faith, because blind faith is over. It is absolutely over. But this is a time where when we think about the sacral chakra and the color yellow, this is about you really defining who you are. This is about stepping into 2026 as a completely upgraded individual. And I will say, if you missed my podcast episode with about the 24th chromosome, you should really go and listen to that, because we talk about the new human. Okay. And many of us are going to start tapping into activating that 24th chromosome this year. So don't miss that episode. It was a really good one, like beginning to end, especially the channeling part. So, this is actually, when we talk about this idea of the new human, for you, the new you, okay? The new you, future self, embodied, who is that, really collapsing time and space between that future version of yourself and now. There's something more inspired about 2026 than there was about 2025. Look, 2025 has been a very difficult year for a lot of people. Some of you have come out a little bit better than others, but some of you have really taken the brunt of it. And that's because we went through massive change in the sky between all of the outer planets, okay? Something that is very unprecedented for us. It's truly not one of those like astrologers are just going to say it because it sounds good or whatever. It truly was an unprecedented year of massive change. And of course, change makes us very uncomfortable because we are creatures of habit. We love to gravitate towards what we know, what feels comfortable. And 2025 was really breaking us free of a lot of things that were still keeping us comfortable, which is why it's been so difficult, because 2026 is the year that things feel, you know what? One of my friends, he sent me this, James, of 2026 being the year you're fixed. And I don't say that as in like you need to be fixed, but the things that you had to break down get re-put back together in a better form. And so this is going to feel more like a coming out year for a lot of people. And I'm not saying there's not going to be challenges, because of course there always are. But there's something about 2025 that was very preparatory and almost like a breakdown to really kind of remove those things that you've been holding on to, saying, well, I can still do it a little bit longer. Oh, I don't need to let go of that just yet. 2025 really came in to eliminate that kind of mindset or behaviors that weren't allowing us to fully move forward. It's very hard to move forward when you're still carrying stuff that keeps you in the past. So with the color yellow, this is giving us a sense of courage, a sense of independence, to step forward into the new you, to step forward into who am I really? It's got a very strong authenticity vibe that I know that word is really overused a lot, but it's true. We know that authenticity is one of the highest frequencies you can carry. And there's something about this year that's really wanting you to be bold and step forward into your own embodied spiritual truth. So with that yellow color, it's okay to not be like everybody else or to have to fit in order to belong. This is the year where you really allow yourself to say, you know what? I'm going to let myself be different. I'm going to let myself step out into a place where I get to practice my own individuation, my own individual personality, and what it is that I want to do when I'm here. So another one, so there were 3 phrases that I got. Well, one phrase, 2 words. One phrase that I got instantly was from my guides was get on board for 2026. So this is where, like, imagine they showed me this visual of a train getting ready to leave the train station. 2026 isn't going to wait for you to jump on anymore. It's not staying in the station, it's leaving. So there's a definitive moment where you have to finally say yes or no. Okay, so this is like get on board with whatever it is that you know you're supposed to be getting on board with. The other two words, I've already said them, were discernment and mastery, are going to be very, very important for this coming year, 2026. Discernment. I'll get into that in a moment. But look, the veil is certainly going to be lifted with Neptune and Saturn both going to be moving into Aries in the early parts of 2026. We're going to see the fall of certain leaders. They're going to be exposed. The illusions of certain leadership is going to be exposed. And I mean from all different kinds of levels, okay? I'm not just talking from like top global level. I mean all levels in your life. People that you likely have followed, whether on YouTube or, in any kind of capacity, there's you're basically, it's like the wheat's going to be the wheat separated from the chaff. Why am I having trouble with my words today? But you guys know what I mean. The cream is going to rise to the top, okay? And this is where you're going to see who was really standing in their own integrity, or who was riding the gravy train of using spirituality to kind of inflate their wallet, to inflate their ego. All of those things that can certainly overcome people when they start to incur a bigger audience or get a sense of their own grandeur, like standing on a stage, so to speak. Not necessarily have to be on stage, but you guys know what I mean. So there's going to be a sense of that. But also, first and foremost, this is where you have to really, truly come back to yourself and really understand your own spiritual mastery. What are all the downloads? What are all the lessons? What are all the healings that you've accumulated over the months, years, and some of you decades that are really going to call upon you now for absolute mastery of? So that's going to be something that really comes up. Now, there were two other energies that I've also were kind of tuned into for 2026. And one is that there is this subtle yet profound force, okay, that is going to be summoning something into creation this year for you. So there's definitely like a pure intelligence of creation that's going to be standing at the door of your own reality this year. And you're going to feel this bubbling to the surface. So this is where this kind of energy, when it's coming up, you don't want to delay. You don't want to let it go. You don't want to diminish the value of what it is when it actually is there. So now is the time absolutely to allow what is perhaps uncreated to bubble up to the surface to show you exactly what it is that wants to be manifest for this year for you. There's going to be absolutely new manifestations for you in this year. This is a time, 2026 is definitely going to be a year for you to envision and believe in that vision. Really put some stamina, some endurance behind what it is that's coming up for you. Let it bubble up to the surface and show you what wants to be created, because the architecture of the future is within you and it's going to start coming forward more so this year, especially with the nodes leaving Pisces, Virgo, and into Aquarius, Leo. The other energy that I got was that something is coming to life. So again, there's a very overarching theme of 2026 where this is like a birthing year. It's a new beginnings year, but this is also an energy of an awakening through the physical as the gateway from the spiritual. Okay. So something about really understanding that without your body, okay, spiritual teachings will absolutely just remain conceptual for you. They must be integrated through the body. So the body, your body is going to be a very important component to your year of 2026. This is where you really need to honor your body as a temple. You want to absolutely listen to the messages of it, observe what is going on in your body energetically, emotions, all of that, because there's going to be a lot of information that you are going to be able to, information and guidance, I should say, that you are going to be able to mine from your own body. So this is about starting a mastery that is uniting your body to serve your soul's purpose. So think of it almost like an athlete or a dancer, okay, uses their body to fulfill their purpose. This is a great year to really do some sort of movement like spiritual classes or retreats or anything that's going to get your body moving through awakening, to awaken a spiritual aspect within yourself. That is also something that really kind of came through. Now, 2026 is starting off quite powerful. We've got a lot going on in the early parts of 2026. As I mentioned before, we've got that conjunction with the sun, the cazimi with Venus and Mars at the very, very beginning, plus a beautiful full moon in Cancer, which of course next week Mary will be on with me to talk about that. But we also have, in the beginning, February going into March, we have major transits happening. We have the first solar eclipse in Aquarius. We have the lunar eclipse in Virgo, early March. And in between all of that, we have our Saturn-Neptune conjunction. This is a major theme. And so this is a complete reset. You've probably heard a lot of people talk about the Great Reset. This is what they're referring to, is the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries. It's happening at the 0 degree mark of Aries, 0 degrees and 45 minutes to be exact. So when anything is happening at 0 degrees, it is almost like a moment in time that stands still, because it's like there's an evolution that's happening, right? It's the 0 point. It's the neutral point where time can collapse. So when you have the planet of spirituality and healing and illusion and fantasy and compassion, okay, coming in and meeting very hard-edged Saturn that is all about maturity, responsibility, rules, regulations. You take Neptune that has no borders, and then you have Saturn that's like, I need boundaries now. So you have two very different energies coming together at the very 0 mark of the first sign, Aries, in the zodiac. So this is going to be important because there's a lot of themes that are coming up here. And one of them is that there's going to be a spiritual awakening that becomes your physical responsibility. So what does this mean? It means like people who've like been on the path for years may find that they're hitting a wall. Okay. So either they're going to embody it daily, or it's almost like feeling like this spiritual burnout could come out. There also could be, through this energy coming in, a surge in your physical symptoms that are tied to your unlived spiritual insight. So are you not embodying the insights, the downloads? Are you not living them day to day? Are you not bringing them into this world, acting them out, living them out? Or are they still remaining conceptual? Your body, when you start to hold all of those insights and information and you're not moving them into actual action, that can start to show up as physical symptoms coming in. Also, we'll see a rise of possibly some sort of spiritual athleticism. Like we already know, like breath work and some kind of body based practices, temple building, ritualizing fitness. Those kinds of things can absolutely be major themes for this idea. Now, the shadow aspect is where people are going to get called out is the avoidance of embodiment through like constantly needing more information. Oh, I got to learn more. I'm not ready yet. So I need to take this class, or I need to read this book, or I need to listen to that podcast. Like that's really, you're going to get called out in 2026 by like the universe itself. Okay. Your higher self is going to call you out because bypassing your own embodiment under the guise that you actually just need to learn more. Like, no, you've had enough time. We've just had the North Node in Pisces for a year. It will still be in Pisces until the summer, but we're really kind of we're really like leaving that Piscean area and embodying more of the Aquarian age. And it's really about those flashes of insight, those deep connection to oneness, needing to take form this year. It must take form in some capacity in your life. Also, bypassing your physical health issues because your vibration is simply enough. Those people, if that's you, you're going to get called out this year. And I see this in our community a lot. And of course, when I was going through my like really big spiritual awakening in 2016 and 2017, like my major one, I fell victim to that. I was like, oh, there's people out there is like, as long as my vibration's high enough, look, I'm not discounting vibration. Everything starts at energy. It's very important. But this Saturn-Neptune conjunction is really going to call you out and understand you are also living in a physical reality. Your body is your temple. Your body is going to be it's going to be your gateway to your next spiritual awakening. So really taking care of yourself and not avoiding certain rituals that are very important, certain responsibilities that you have for your health, your body, by just saying, well, I can just meditate it away. Or, like you have to be very advanced in order to do that. Okay. Especially if you've allowed it to go on and on and on and on. It's one thing if you've got a few symptoms showing up and you are able to shift early on. It's a whole nother game if you've been going on like this for years and in some cases decades. Some people will kill themselves slowly under the guise that their vibration is going to save them. You have a spiritual responsibility to your vessel in this life. There's a reason why we have certain herbs and certain medicines and healers and all of that in this, your food, like all of these things are very important. Take care of your body in 2026 because that is going to be very important. Now, also, we're going to see the end of fantasy-based spirituality. And we're going to see the rise of infrastructure with spirituality. So this is where like you must have certain rituals. This is where ritual and ceremony can be very powerful for you in 2026. You can't just kind of whimsically kind of go about it. And again, there's always a time and place for that energy. Please don't take like what I say around that as me saying that's silly or it's useless. It's not. There's always a time and place for it. But this year, it's going to get called out. Okay. So what we might see through 2026, at least in the beginning stages, because remember, Saturn's going to be in Aries for 2.5 years. Neptune's going to be there for at least a decade or so. I think it's like 12 or 13 years, maybe 14. And so we're going to see retreat centers, spiritual businesses, mystery schools that are going to have to professionalize or they're not going to withstand. Okay, so there has to be structure within those kinds of things in order for them to survive. Again, like I said in the why discernment is going to be such an important part of 2026 for you guys is because, again, there's going to be disillusionment. Many of you are going to be very disillusioned with some of your teachers, your spiritual teachers, healers, people you've been following. Again, it doesn't have to just be spiritual. Neptune also carries a little political vibe. So it could be political people. It could be actors, right? Because Neptune rules movies and artists. So anything like that is definitely like up for it. So this is also where the new age bubble will collapse, because we're going to see gurus get exposed for either financial abuse or perhaps false claims, absolutely getting called out. Now, some of this is going to be, some of this will be definitely warranted. And some of it won't be warranted, because what we're also going to see are people who were giving away all of their power to someone and not doing the work themselves, and then blame other people for their own spiritual demise. So it's going to be like both sides of the polarities and the fence of that nature. So some of you who are more responsible and are definitely keeping your own authority in check, you're always checking in with your higher self, yourself, you're gonna see some of this happen, but you're not gonna be, of course there's gonna be disappointment, but you're not gonna feel like crumbling or whatever, right? People who've absolutely given their power away to these kinds of leaders, that have been able to cast any kind of illusion that has not been close to reality, that will serve as a major teaching moment for those of you who continuously, again, it's kind of like, like, I don't think there's anything wrong. Obviously, I'm doing a video on it with predictions and all of that, but there's also like people who are constantly tuning in, like every week, like what's happening with this and what's happening with that and what's happening, like really like constantly in that loop, like over and over and over again, right? You have to be very careful about why you're needing to know something before it happens. It's a form of control, and Saturn is all about control. So where have you been trying to control, okay, through perhaps spiritual avoidance, your own spiritual avoidance, and giving away your power to other spiritual people? That's going to really kind of come up. So, one of the positive things though for you guys is that there is going to be this rise of mission-driven, grounded spiritual enterprises that have curriculum, that have longevity, that have structure, that can last the test of time. Okay, that's Saturn. So we're really going to see the rise of that. Like I said, the cream is definitely going to rise to the top over the next couple of years, and we're going to start to see that for sure in early 2026. Another thing that is really going to be big this coming year, our mental health systems are going to likely collapse and or reform. Okay, so for instance, psychiatry may hit like a major reckoning as we as a society are starting to demand that we actually treat the spiritual and emotional bodies, not just the mind or the brain, or think that they're disconnected. So we're likely going to see the rise of that. We're also going to see major breakthroughs. We already are major breakthroughs in like psychedelic assisted therapy that's going to get pushed more into the legal field, but very structured. So we're already seeing this. So for instance, I think it was last week, Trump just declared cannabis as a Schedule 3. Okay, no longer Schedule 1, Schedule 3. We're also seeing mushrooms are now getting through different, like I think it was just in, which country was it? Was it Croatia? No, I don't think it was Croatia. It was one of those countries around there that just legalized starting in 2026, where doctors can now legally offer like psychedelic drugs such as mushrooms or possibly even MDMA for treating depression. again, like I said, the way we look at mental health is going to completely evolve and change right now. Thank God, right? Thank God. I think our whole entire world is suffering a mental health crisis. Like we've been so, like there's been so much programming and so much fear and so much stress and anxiety that everyone has been like pressured with, that it's kind of reaching this tipping point where it forces us to look at new solutions. So we're definitely going to see that. Now, what we have to be careful of, obviously, when we're talking about this, is over reliance on altered states. So you don't want to be using psychedelics for escapism. You want to be using them for healing, for intentional healing, for bridging what has been disconnected. So there's also this idea of burnout. So maybe the burnout from trying to heal forever, okay, that's going to hit a wall in 2026. So if you've been that person, that's why like I've really been promoting this this idea of, it's not an idea, but this truth of a healing exit strategy. Okay, like there has to be an exit strategy within your own healing journey. Otherwise, you stay on this perpetual loop of healing, and you heal but never integrate. Right? So you're constantly like trying to heal, but then there's never any time for you to actually integrate into real life. And you get burnout from that. That's why I call it healing fatigue. So that's going to be something that really gets called out in 2026 for those of you who have perhaps still found yourself wanting or feeling the need to heal. Like this is really the year of embodiment. Also like discrediting of intuition due to false claims or, maybe even spiritual bypassing. So this is where, you might say, oh no, I'm not feeling that because, and you'll come up with an excuse to say why you can't do it yet. Like your intuition may be saying, you know what? It's time to quit your job and start in, I don't know, a healing field. Okay. I'm just going to use that as an example. Or it's time to start your psychic business or like whatever it is. Okay. And you're like, well, no, I still don't have enough money in my accounts. And, but truly it's like that idea of waiting to be ready, that this is the year of readiness embodied. No, like you don't get to kick the can down the alley. Okay. So that isn't a bit of an extreme. I'm not saying that everyone should just quit their job, whether they have the finances or not, or the support structures in place, because support structures are important, but you should be actively working to put those structures in place. So if you're the person who's like, you definitely, and I'm just going to use this as this example. So you want to start your own psychic business. Okay. But you're working at a job that, it pays well. You're definitely comfortable. Like you've got healthcare, you've got all these different benefits, and you're going to lose all that when you start. So you're just like, you're waiting for the right time, but you're not putting in structures already to prepare yourself for that leap, because there's always going to be a transition phase. Okay. You must start building the structure now. Okay. So that's definitely going to be there. And it's like this idea of Saturn, Neptune because I'm going to get into spiritual warfare, because that's definitely going to be a major theme for 2026. We're going to see a lot of spiritual warfare coming through in 2026. But before I do want to say that the Saturn, Neptune in Aries is literally, so I'm offering Becoming the Medicine on January 7th. If you haven't, a lot of you have already heard, some of you have already signed up. This 8-week portal that will finalize on the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. Our last journey will be on the Saturn-Neptune conjunction on February 20th. This is literally Saturn-Neptune conjunction, becoming the medicine, embodying the healing frequency, learning how to create it and give it structure within you. Okay, this is ultimately like, it is so beautifully timed. And, I wasn't thinking about it when I was putting it all together, but when I see everything, it's like, oh my God, it's so perfect. So for any of you who maybe you can't fly to an actual retreat, whether it's around you or whatever, but you want to have that journey experience, you want to meet the medicine frequency. Perhaps you're not ready to use any kind of psychedelic. Perhaps you don't ever want to use any psychedelic, or perhaps you want a prep phase before you do. This is so perfect for you. But it's even beyond all of that. Becoming the medicine is going to be a mastery for you in your own body, and allowing your physical body to become the gateway to your spiritual awakening. Okay. I'm going to teach you how to open up through your body and let the frequency build from like not just your cells, but and not just your DNA, but from the atoms and the molecules, okay, that are of 3D, that are starting to form and come together, how to really create that so that you can carry that frequency throughout the year. Because like I said, we're going to be going into some major spiritual warfare in 2026. It's definitely going to be there. And you becoming the authority of your own field, your own spirituality, your own body, okay, through the practice of healing, through the practice of your own spiritual divinity, bringing that, merging that with the responsibility of being the master, which is Saturn, having the right boundaries, having the right formats, the structure. And again, Aries is the identity. It is the body. It is the self. Okay, this is all about you taking responsibility for you and you being your highest authority in that realm. So this is going to be extremely important for all of you to really kind of step forward into. And I will say, for anyone who does want to join Becoming the Medicine, if you join this week before the end of the week on Friday, I'm going to gift everyone who joins a 30 minutes with me individually, okay, so that I can take a look at what's going on for you. We're going to flush out everything that we need to ahead of time, give you some extra prep time, but you're going to get some one-on-one time with me, okay? So that's going to be a little bonus gift for anyone who signs up before the 27th, the end of this week. Now, let's get into the ideological warfare disguised as spiritual truth that will be coming forward in 2026, because we're already seeing this happening. I don't know if you guys have, but it's so prevalent right now. Competing belief systems framed as I'm right because I believe this, or my religion says this, or my spirituality says that. And this really competing, almost very polarizing, ideological kind of fracturing, okay, that's really kind of going on. So we're going to see a lot of that really rearing its head in 2026. Religion, spirituality, or even this idea of very moral truth, right? Being used to justify why perhaps you were mean to someone, why someone decided to use force, why someone created a policy, why there was censorship, or why there was violence, right? We're going to see religion and spirituality and moral truths be used to justify those kinds of actions. People saying, God told me to. This is destiny. This is the sacred law. And saying that to just kind of shut down any debate. Just be very wary of that. First and foremost, within yourself, if you feel that rising up, know that that's coming up for your own awareness to see where you've become so rigid in your own beliefs that you leave no room for other people's beliefs. This is going to be something that comes up because the Neptune is all about your belief, your faith, your illusion. Saturn is law, authority, enforcement. And obviously Aries is about combat, initiative, and identity, right? You identify with your own religion or your own spirituality to the point of sometimes going into these shadows of extremism and moral absolutism. Like this idea of like, if someone disagrees with me, they're evil. And I know we're seeing a lot of this. There's like already very much a spiritual warfare at play, but be very aware how that also gets used against you, of this idea of it's either good or it's evil. Okay. Because if you don't agree with it and you automatically think it's evil, and of course, there's definitely going to be things out there that are evil and are very good, but be very, don't be so rigid. Remember, Neptune is all about, it's boundless. Okay. There are no boundaries. And Saturn is very rigid, very like hard walls. And so you want to take the best of both worlds. You don't want to lean too much into one or the other. The positive aspect around this, though, is that there can be a clear separation between faith and coercion. This is where we're going to see the exposure of belief systems being used as weapons. And right now, I think spirituality and religion is definitely getting weaponized. I think one of the biggest examples of it right now is the Charlie Kirk debacle that is still ongoing with investigations. And you'll see a very like staunch Christian, like very supportive, like wants to like not see any bad in like, say, Erica Kirk. Okay. And then the other side was like, well, I just want to find the truth. And then of course you see the, on the other, even more extreme side of that, like, well, she must have killed him or whatever, like being a part of it. Like there's, and I'm not saying which side is right or wrong. Okay. That's not what this is about. I'm just using it as an example of how we can see where religion is getting weaponized within people. Okay. So that's really important to be aware of. Now, of course, we're also going to see psychological and nervous system warfare, where there's an information overload that creates fear, dissociation, even paralysis. You know, one of the things that I had to do back in 2021, after 2020 was just, ugh. You know, I look back at 2025 and I'm like, this actually is a year I'm really glad to see go. There was some definite highlights, but there were some definite lowlights. But I still like, no, 2020 was still worse, like way worse. 2021, I had to really make the decision for myself to not constantly overload my system with all of this information. I'm like, I gotta go within. I gotta just find, like, I gotta reconnect to my own spirituality, my own self. Like, what do I need for my reality? And one of the reasons was because I was getting so overwhelmed. For the first time in my life, and this is probably like, obviously it's a blessing, I hadn't really experienced severe anxiety up until that point in my life, you know? So I was very fortunate, but that definitely imprinted massive anxiety globally on us. And it's been really hard to find back my 0 point, you know? And so this is going to be something that we're going to see also, because remember, Aries represents the body. Okay. And so we will likely see an overload on our nervous system through that. Also, propaganda that is disguised to exhaust you emotionally. Another reason to like really become the master of your own internal environment spiritually. And anxieties will be spiked to like apocalyptic narratives. I mean, I've got some friends who still send me stuff like, what do you think of this? And I'm just like, why are you even like looking at this stuff at this point? I mean, when you've been around and you've seen the same narrative spun year after year after year, and it starts to get into decades, and it's just like, oh my gosh. Like, of course, everyone has their own point of awakening, and you're going to go through your journey and you're going to go through the different phases. I think it's like a rite of passage, to be quite honest. But to truly like not be able to discern like how ridiculous some of this stuff is, and how like if it's really getting you into fear. And it's not that you shouldn't be aware of stuff. It's not that you turn a blind eye, but you also want to protect your vessel. Okay, don't let people spin you out of like control within your own nervous system. And I'm going to tell you why that's important in a second. Like especially for 2026. Because that is just going to really disempower you at a level that this year is not meant for. Okay. Now, that means that the battlefield is going to be your perception. And the goal is not necessarily belief, it's submission through your confusion. Okay? Submission through your confusion. So the more confused you are, and again, it's really easy to get confused when you're inundated by this information source, that information source. Like, I still like to stay tapped into certain things, and I'll get little clips. Like, I think that's one of the benefits. It also has a bad side, of course, but one of the benefits of, say, TikTok or Instagram Reels and stuff is that you can get little tidbits of information and then go. Like, you don't have to listen to the whole thing, right? And of course, that means you may not get the full story, of course, but you can kind of like, I'm not necessarily going in there to be told what the truth is. I'm just kind of going in there to hear little bits of information, right? The truth is going to be the truth. And I'm certainly not looking for someone to tell me what the truth is. So spikes, and also like people mistaking fear responses as their own intuition. That's going to be a really big theme for 2026. So it's really important that you stay hyper vigilant in your own embodiment of your spiritual practices, your healing. But beyond that, embodiment. So let me just kind of put a pin in what we're talking about, because I want to go into the weaponization of identity as well. But before I get into that, I really want to make sure I don't forget to talk about this with you guys, because the reason why you don't want to be inundated with so much information that your nervous system starts like getting fried, okay? And you're just like, oh my God, constantly in fear, like, it's so hard to hold the capacity for what it is you want when you're constantly in a state of survival. You will never be able to manifest and hold what it is that you want to become, create the timeline that you're tuning into. Okay, you have a personal responsibility, Saturn, Aries, to your spiritual energetic frequency. Now, that energetic frequency is very tied to your nervous system. So this is where you cannot look for safety outside of yourself to comfort you. You have to create the safety within yourself by training your nervous system to withstand your own evolution, your own expansion. And if you're trying to do that while also simultaneously taking in other people's bullshit that really doesn't matter to what it is that you need to be focused on, because you really need to be focused on what it is that you're being called to. 2026 wants you to start, okay? So you cannot afford to be distracted in 2026. This is the reason why some people, okay, will go and whatever, they'll go to an ayahuasca journey in the jungle, or they'll go to a retreat, or they'll have their own spiritual awakening through, maybe it's plant medicine, maybe it's some other format, whatever it might be. And some people will absolutely like completely change their life overnight, and some people will feel it in the moment, but then revert back to like life as usual. Okay. And the biggest difference is capacity. Capacity is so freaking important. I can't stress this enough, especially going into 2026. This is something I'm definitely going to be spending more time on in Becoming the Medicine for you guys. Also at my next 3-day 180, we're going to be going more into capacity building embodiment, because it's useless to expand something that you can't hold. Okay, there's no point in trying to call in a version of life that's so fucking big that your nervous system starts to fry out the second it starts thinking it's actually happening. Okay, so your body will shut down. It'll start creating scenarios that you're like, you know what, this isn't working. I just got to go back to what I know is safe. Like, it's just not for me. Like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. All these things can kind of really come up. Okay, so for 2026, make a promise to yourself, especially utilizing Jupiter in Cancer still while it's retrograde until I think it's the end of February or early March. Use Jupiter retrograde, okay, in Cancer to expand yourself through your emotional capacity. Learn how to hold calm, peace, safety, security in your body, no matter what your reality is showing you. This will prepare you for what you are truly building in the future, what it is that you want to bring into your now. It'll help you collapse time between your future self and now much faster and sustain it. Okay, most importantly, sustain it. Very, very important. Okay, so I just really wanted to make sure that you had that. And as I say that, there's 2 tickets left for the 3-day 180 retreat, guys. So if you're wanting to come, it's going to be really, it's going to be high capacity. Actually, if you got my newsletter, just a quick side note, I did a journey on Wednesday night last week, and it was about like expanding, and it was about being able to hold more. And I met Quetzalcoatl, the Aztec deity, the feathered serpent. Okay. And didn't know that was happening. Didn't even have any kind of thoughts or connections to that whatsoever. That's just kind of how it happens. And he started bending time. And I say he because it's a very masculine energy, very, very masculine energy. He said to me, he goes, "You're in my world now." And he's like, "I'm going to show you what we do in my world." And of course, he's the god of wind. Okay. So very like fast moving things, and also in the invisible. So showed me how he bent time to mold and converge into others. But through that, there's an in-between space, and took me into the in-between space of my next retreat in February. And I went into the actual space, which I've never been to before. This is a new location for me. But I went into the location, and it was like, you know how in Stranger Things, how when they go into other dimensions, you kind of like, you can see, but other people can't see you. Like, that's where I was. I was in the in-between. So it made me think afterwards, because this happened at the very first retreat, someone time traveled. And before she time traveled, we were in the forest walking in the mountains, and we heard someone walking through the trees, but we didn't see anyone there. And it was her in her journey later. So I'm really curious as what's going to kind of happen at that retreat. But what I do know that is happening, the ceremonies were very strong. The energy was very big. Like, the capacity of that room was so fucking powerful. So if you are really wanting to embody your own power and change, this is definitely a retreat to come to. So don't miss out on that one. Now, let me get back to weaponization of identity and chosen narratives, because this is something you're going to see. Now, maybe there's going to be people who outright say this kind of shit, or they don't say it outright, but they believe it. Okay. And they talk like they believe it. I'm the chosen one. We are the chosen ones. Our people are under spiritual attack. It's this identity-based righteousness escalating into conflict. It's very important to how do I say this? Maintain integrity within your own religion, within your own spirituality, okay? And not get so heavily identified into it that you lose your own self in defining what is true and what is good, what is evil, what is true and what is not true, in a sense where you start separating yourself from others. This is where we get into the shadow aspects of spirituality and religion, where, we want to separate ourselves because someone is evil or bad from our perspective of what they're doing. And very well may be true, but if we look at the practice of Jesus, Jesus was always sitting with those who were ostracized, always sitting with those who were less than, okay? Maybe even trying to talk to the bad ones. This is where we have to remember our own integrity, that we're all here, we're all humans. And obviously, don't do anything that's going to, put you in a place where you're sacrificing your own protection and own responsibility to yourself and maybe your family. But really, also, there's a fine line, right? There's a fine line between really getting into that nature of like, we are the ones who, whatever. Like we can see that too, like where in the spiritual community, we do that, where, we kind of come in with this idea, like we're the light beings, or, we're the ones carrying the light codes. And it's not that you aren't, okay? It's not that you aren't, but it's like when you too heavily identify with that and like start like building up your ego or inflating your ego, like there's a lot of spiritual ego can come from that. So it's like, just do you, hold your integrity, and remember, we're all here just trying to friggin' figure it out for ourselves. Now, why this is a problem, like I said, is because it can create radicalization. And it can also create dehumanization. And we don't ever want to move into that kind of element, right? That's really important that we don't do that. Also, the positive of this, however, this element, is that we will see the collapse of victim-savior dynamics, where people are, again, like I said, giving your power away, thinking that someone has to save you, that you can't do it on your own. Saturn, Neptune, and Aries is really going to start to help people find their own power within. Start believing like you can do this. You have what it takes inside. You don't need someone to save you. So that's going to be a big maturity around your identity, right? Without having to put a lot of mythology around it or spirituality around it. So, now, one of the other things is that we're going to see is this real military or political conflict framed as sacred duty. Okay, so wars that might be justified by ideology, religion, or some historical destiny. Leaders using moral or spiritual language to legitimize the aggression that is being put out. And maybe even this was a necessary sacrifice kind of a narrative, right? We are likely going to see some form of that in 2026. So be mindful of that when it comes up. It doesn't mean we're absolutely going to have war. However, there is a possibility of that, for not just because of this transit, but because Uranus is going to be fully in Gemini at the end of April. So Uranus in Gemini was when World War II happened and all of that. So that's just something to also be aware. We have a couple of warlike transits that are kind of coming up, and look, we may avoid it. It may not happen, but the energy is certainly there. Perhaps we're going to approach it in a different way and have solutions that avoid it. But what it will do, this kind of energy, it will expose where force is being spiritually rationalized. Okay, it tests whether authority is going to be acting from fear or acting from integrity, and for yourself, just down to the nuts and bolts of it for you. This is like really testing your own authority. Are you acting from fear, or are you acting from your own integrity? And that's where I go back to your own capacity to hold security, safety, peace in your own body, no matter what is happening outside of you. And again, that can be very, very difficult, especially when you're under a lot of pressure in your outside reality, when your reality just keeps pushing on you of like all these reasons for you to be fearful. It can be very hard to push back and say no, and to hold your ground. It's kind of like I'm getting the image of the Seven of Wands energy, where like you have the higher ground, you have to stand in your own, like, and when I say resistance to the fear, resistance to the anxiety, and really cultivate that safety and security within you. We also may see, as a result of this, there might be something that comes up in 2026 where we see a public rejection of sacred justification for violence. So where people are using religious doctrine or spirituality to justify why there was violence. We may also see accountability for leaders who invoke maybe higher powers, and an absolutely clear distinction between defense and domination, right? Like, where are you just defending yourself, or where are you trying to dominate? So the last one on this particular topic is, again, most importantly, internal spiritual warfare, right? This is going to likely be the most common expression of this energy, which is what you guys will likely all experience. And it feels like being torn between belief and reality. So it's a crisis of faith. Do I trust this, or am I lying to myself? This is where old spiritual identities that absolutely will collapse within you. Physical symptoms, again, like I said before, when you're not embodying your spiritual lessons and truths. So basically, Saturn says, prove it through action. Neptune says, feel it deeply, right? You got to feel it in your body. And Aries is saying, decide now, act now, start now, initiate now. Just be aware of spiritual burnout and giving up entirely. Okay, that is not where you want to be. So this isn't necessarily about angels and demons, okay, or angels versus demons, although that's definitely, like, it can be interpreted that way. It's more about, like, who controls meaning, who defines truth, who weaponizes belief, and who stays grounded under all that pressure. All right. So it's really a test of discipline over delusion. And if you can regulate your nervous system and separate belief from behavior and really take responsibility for your actions, you're going to come out of 2026 with a very strong mastery, okay, of yourself. So that's going to be, like, super important. Now, we also have one of the things that I also want to talk about that I think is going to happen, that we're going to likely see the beginnings of in 2026, is when Uranus moves into Gemini. And in the summer, we're going to have, at 4 degrees, we're going to have Uranus in Gemini trine Pluto in Aquarius at 4 degrees. And Neptune is also going to be at 4 degrees of Aries, creating, like, this mini trine in the sky. All exact, okay? And that's going to be very interesting. But with Uranus kind of going into Gemini and trining Pluto in Aquarius at 4 degrees exactly, you know, mind control was really birthed during the Uranus Gemini transit back in the 40s. And so we saw the beginning usage of mind control. We saw how Hitler was, poisoning the water, to alter people so that they would succumb. They would have no willpower. So we saw all of that kind of transpire in the 40s. And so now that we're kind of coming back here, what's really interesting is this time Uranus will be trine Pluto. Pluto is all about exposing something that has been hidden, power abuse, and Aquarius is the people. What I predict may begin to unfold this year is we may start to see release of information around that, where ownership is going to be where it's kind of going to be exposed of how bad it really is. Like, it's not just going to be in, like, conspiracy theory, like subcultures and things of that nature. Like, it's going to come out into the mainstream, because Gemini is the news, right? Also, it's media. And so we're definitely going to likely see the way that the population, the people, have been manipulated through various forms of mind control. So not just the extreme nature of like MK Ultra and stuff like that, but of also just the mind control of the news, of just different tactics of how like narratives are to use to keep people in states of confusion. Again, like I said, confusion is the goal in order to control. So we're going to kind of see how that is going to likely get exposed. We're also going to see what's really cool with Uranus going into Gemini full time now is we're going to start to see the birth of perhaps new languages. I think telepathy. We've already, I don't know if you guys have ever listened to the telepathy tapes podcast. It's amazing. But I think we're going to start to see also with Pluto in Aquarius, we may see also, and I think it's already out there, but more like somehow you don't have to like necessarily type something into Google to search it. You can just think it and it'll search it. Now, obviously, I know that brings up a lot of like instant like, whoa, I don't want machines to know what I'm thinking. And I don't want people who have control to be, who are behind those machines to know what I'm thinking. I totally get it. But there might be something that's kind of coming up. Telepathy is going to be a big topic for the next 7 years. We're going to see that develop more and more. I think we're going to start to see the generations as the ones who came in after us, who are younger and are only able to communicate more so through telepathy, are going to start teaching us. I think there could just be new languages in general coming up, but I do see telepathy being something that is coming more and more to the forefront of that. Also, symbolism, hieroglyphs, deeper wisdom. I believe we're going to start to see the greater meanings behind some of those symbolisms of ancient civilization use, but then we're also going to start having our own coming through. So I think that's going to be really cool for 2026. Okay, there is another thing that I looked at and I thought it was really interesting. I looked ahead. I don't know what it's going to mean, but in November 16th to be exact, Jupiter and Mars will conjunct at 25 degrees in Leo with the South Node. And at that time, within the next day, the moon will be opposed it in Aquarius with the North Node. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because 25 degrees is a very interesting part in the Leo portion of the chart, because we have Trump, who I believe is at 28 or 29 degrees, Leo, his ascendant. And then JD Vance, which I think is around 25, somewhere around there. I don't know the exact number, but I know it's very close. Maybe 23, 24, somewhere around there. And for Jupiter and Mars can be like war. Jupiter can be very belief, righteousness. It also expands anything it touches. Coming on the South Node of Leo. Leo is the planet of shadow qualities, ego, performance. It's all about me being in the spotlight, like that kind of energy. And then in opposing the North Node in Aquarius of we the people, and then the moon, which represents the people also being there. I don't know what's going to happen around there, but that energy I find very interesting, because what I could see coming up is where there's going to be a moment where the administration it can go a couple of different ways, but may come out, there could be something where spirituality might be getting attacked and needing to stand up for it, or religion, and like maybe feeling, again, it feels more like, I'm not saying it's going to be war, but I'm saying like it could be almost like a threat that is used for leverage or negotiations to diminish war possibilities. But like the way it may be initially presented, I don't think the people are going to really like. It's not going to sit well with the people. Because with the moon being on the North Node in Aquarius, it's like we're not going back to these old world like leadership kind of narratives, or we've already done this before, right? Because it's on the South Node. So there's something that has to be that's getting like kind of eliminated. We're not doing this anymore, and kind of looking more towards the future of what's good for all people. So that's just something to kind of, I don't know what's going to happen there, but I thought that was really interesting, that transit specifically. Yeah. So I think one of the things also we're going to see in 2026, we're going to start to see the beginning of the influencer purge. Influencers really started to kick in like about 9 years ago or so, like 2016, 2017, 2018. Like that was when we started to really start to see the surge of influencing coming up like on Instagram and like all different places. And so what I think is going to happen with the South Node moving into Leo and the North Node moving into Aquarius is that there's going to have to be some integrity. So anyone who's been influencing and just trying to ride a wave without actually holding their own integrity, we're going to start to see like that diminishing of that industry, like hitting certain like road bumps and speed bumps and things of that nature, where it's not going to be all gold and glory. And really kind of those who really lean into what's good for people, what's beneficial for the greater whole, they'll do very well. So there's, again, it's kind of like there's definitely going to be a separation from who's just in it for themselves and who's in it for like an actual purpose, to serve in a higher way. We're absolutely going to see that exposed in 2026. So, is there anything else that I want to say about 2026? I think that's it. Oh, we're already at an hour and 11 minutes. Wow, 111. I love that. I will say, guys, I should have said this in the beginning. I want to just thank you so much for all of your support over 2025. For those of you who have been here for a long time, maybe, and also for those of you who are new, I appreciate your support over this year. It's been absolute interesting journey, one that is certainly pushing my growth in ways that are very uncomfortable for me. But one of the things that I always find comfort in and joy is being able to do this show with you, do my lives, my all signs. I know that I've kind of stepped back from YouTube a little bit in like how much frequent I've been. There's been a lot of restructuring that I've been doing in my business and all of that. And I've needed a little bit of a break. But I can really feel that 2026 may be the year that I kind of really go more full force back into YouTube and really put more of my energy into that. So we'll see what happens. But this has just been a very, what's the year I want to say? It's definitely been transformative. It's been exhausting. It's been a little bit of a shitstorm, but it's also been a little bit of a gold mine as well in many areas. It's like this is what I called 2025 last year when I was doing 2025 predictions. I said, guys, be very ready for a lot of change, right? Which was going to mean that it's going to be a lot of ups and downs, a lot of highs and lows. And I certainly experienced that this year, but the lows have been to pull stuff out that can no longer be there, the stuff that doesn't serve the future that I'm choosing for myself, all part of the growth process. Just when you think you've gone through the majority of like the dark nights of your soul, I'm pretty sure I've been in a dark night of the soul and I almost didn't know it this like last 3 or 4 months, so to speak. Well, actually, no, this last 6 months, I should say, probably went through. Yes, no, I did go through a dark night of the soul. And that's the thing. You don't even know that you're in it until like you're starting to come out of it. But I thought I was done with those things. But oh, we're just constantly upgrading, right? So love it. MJ, you agree? Okay. Thank you. I just want to say hello, MJ Dots, Rachel, and Op Connection. Good to see you. So look, 2026, or sorry, 2025 absolutely had to remove things from your reality, from your mindset, from your body, from your spiritual practice. Anything that wasn't going to be part of the new you, that new human that you are becoming, okay, had to really get pulled out, really had to be exposed in 2025. And now it's going to be a full immersion into 26 where you kind of get to start building new again, okay? And it's still going to feel a little rocky. But you're going to start to get a little more of a foothold now with this 1 year and going through a lot of the stuff, the big changes of all the planetary, like we're still going to see, but we've already felt it, like we've already done some of it, right? So like we've already had Saturn and Neptune in Aries briefly. We don't have them conjunct at 0 degrees yet, but we've had them in Aries. We've had Uranus in Gemini. Okay. The only one that we haven't had yet is Jupiter in Leo, but most of you have likely experienced it if you're over 12 years old. Okay. So, we're going to finally be settling in more. I just leave it on this note. Be grounded in 2026. Have your grounding practice in place. You will absolutely need it. Hold steady, have structure, stay strong, but also be flexible, be adaptable. Okay. Do not be so rigid that you can't adapt to new situations. This is going to be the year where you have to really start saying yes to things, yes to the discomfort, yes to really building in the structure, not just having it be a concept in your mind, like really start tangibly building in this reality. And so one of the ways that you're going to be able to withstand a lot of the pressure that's going to inevitably bring is be grounded. Okay. Breath work, meditation, vagus nerve resets, walking in nature. Just build your capacity for security, strength, and foundation from the inside out. And you will do very well in 2026. In fact, I know a lot of you are going to start to see the beginnings of a future that you thought had perhaps maybe passed you by really start to take a little bit of a foothold in 2026. All right. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for being here. Of course, please like the video, drop a comment, whether it's here on YouTube, later on Spotify, anywhere. I love you guys so much. Thank you very much. And don't forget, again, I'd love to have you join me with becoming the medicine until the end of this week. If you join now, not only will you get instant access to Velocity Oracle, which I still use emphatically, but you will also get a free 30-minute session with me for us to meet one-to-one and start decoding everything we need to for your 2026 and how to capitalize on your own becoming the medicine journey. Okay, so I love you guys. Have an amazing Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, because that's what I love to say. Some people will say Happy Holidays, but I'm going to say Merry Christmas. That's fine. I love it. I love Christmas. I love the holiday. It is the first Christmas I'm not alone in a very long time. So I have that to be very grateful for. Get to spend it with my boyfriend and his family. So I'm very excited. I have spent too many Christmases alone. So yay, that's exciting. I wish you all, if any of you are alone for Christmas, know that I am holding you in my heart for Christmas over the holidays and sending you a very warm hug. Know that you're loved. Know that you are here to absolutely lead in your own way that is very unique and special. And I will see you guys not in the new year, but next week before the new year with Mary Decina for our full moon in Cancer, which is a very, very important full moon. Very important. Great energy. And actually, there's some really good energy coming up in January.